Hi guys, it's me, it's Tiffany. You're here for Tiffany TV. So I am wanting to talk today about the new financial system. Yesterday we touched a little bit on concepts and systems that we'll be hopefully seeing in the world around us in the new earth as that vibration is rising up and we are seeing the shift away from the old way of doing things and then introducing all of the new exciting ways in which we as a society and humanity are going to be able to thrive within these new systems. So I wanted to talk specifically about the financial system because that one is one that really affects every single person on earth. And there is very, very, very few people who maybe are living off grid or who have sort of moved away from participating in a financial system in the capacity that is necessary for most people. You know, like people who live on the continent of Africa, they may do a lot more of like hunter-gathering, or they might do a lot more of bartering or exchange or contribution to a community where they are able to thrive in whatever way they are able, but by helping one another, not necessarily by getting a reciprocation of payment for work that they're doing. So what does the new financial system? Now, let's talk about first the old financial system that we're currently living in right now, which is basically based on scarcity. It is the thought that we're never going to have enough, or that when I have a pie, if I take more of the pie, then it means that you have less of the pie because the pie is only so big, instead of realizing that if we work together, we can build a bigger pie. Collaboration, contribution to collective things that we can work on together that are really going to benefit more people rather than just the few. So I had this realization the other day about taxes, and everyone is sort of frustrated about paying taxes. But what I realized is that taxes are actually a forced circulation. So the government takes taxes away from people so that they can reallocate that money and then distribute it into different areas of life where they think that things are necessary, and we judge where they spend those funds or how they allocate them. But it's basically a system of forced circulation where people who have to give those taxes, it goes back out into the population rather than people hoarding and keeping that money if they have more than what they need. Now, the idea is that wealthy people, like the rich, generally have the most money hoarded away. And so shouldn't they be the ones that are paying the highest taxes, because they're the ones that are keeping the energy stagnant or the money stagnant rather than circulating it around? And I'm not saying that there are not wealthy people who do lots of philanthropy and lots of things where they create new things for generation of wealth, or where they circulate or they funnel money into systems that are helping people. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm just saying that their exponential wealth, it's almost impossible for them to be able to even spend that much money that they have. Let's see, like the Bill Gates, the Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musks, the people that are excuse me, at the top of the financial food chain, they literally have so much money that I don't even know if they tried to spend it in conventional ways or circulate it in conventional ways, whether or not they would be able to even spend all of the money that they have in their lifetime. So the system that we live in right now is basically a debt society. It's a slave society where we have to work in order to generate income to fund our lives, to be able to pay our mortgages, to have a car, to have food to eat, in order to have services like electricity and water, we need to have some sort of skill, or if not a skill, then be able to exchange our energy over time for a reciprocation of wealth back to us, where we can then circulate that money that goes around to pay for those things. Then, if you're lucky and you make enough money that you have a little bit extra, then the idea is that we're supposed to save a whole bunch of money so that someday we are not enslaved and we can be free. And we can live this life where we don't have to work anymore. And it's this like golden egg of retirement where people slave their whole lives and work doing things that they absolutely hate, doing things for other people and generating wealth for, let's say, a very small amount of people at the top, where they sacrifice and give their whole lives. And that's the way you see it really, especially if you're doing something that you don't love. It's as if you are exchanging and giving away your life just in order to live for this someday time when you don't have to do that anymore. And I would suggest that, honestly, if you do something that you love, you never work a day in your life. That's what my husband says. But it's also that retirement is like this imaginary place that we want to get to. But what if you just did what you loved always, and then you never had to retire from that because you just were already doing what you loved? Wouldn't you want to do what you love forever? And this imaginary idea of freedom someday, instead of choosing to be free in the moment that you're in right now and realizing that freedom is available to us in any given moment, instead of living in misery, feeling like you're suffering, doing something that you really do not enjoy for like 50, 45 years of your life, and then who knows, dropping dead of a heart attack because you've been stressed your whole life, and then you never ever get to enjoy it. And not only that, all of this money that you have, that you're saving in these funds or these systems, containers, let's call them, that they have created to give us the illusion that we are generating wealth. With inflation, with the cost of things rising, with the difference in what you need to live a comfortable life, all of a sudden, everything that you've put away, it isn't even worth that much, where you were better off to spend it to create something in the moment and live a life in the moment, and then trusting that everything you need is going to be provided for you, especially if we live in a society where we care for our elderly, or we help our neighbors, or we share things, instead of all of us feeling as though we need to own one of everything individually. Like maybe there's a work share, maybe there's equipment sharing. I had this idea after I read this book, Sacred Economics by Charles Eisenstein. And I was like, okay, so my neighborhood that I live in is like a closed street, and you come in and then there's one street, a little street like this, and it kind of goes in a rectangle, and it's 1 kilometer around, and we're like a little neighborhood. There's no through street. I was like, imagine if at the end of the street you had one community shed or something that was available to you that you could, let's say, have community things, tools, lawnmowers, vacuum cleaners, things that we all think that, well, maybe not a vacuum, because I'm definitely going to still have a robot vacuum that vacuums my floor without me having to do anything. But these community things, that a leaf blower or a mulcher or something that we work our lives away trying to acquire and attain all of these things that we think that we need, where if we shared them and had them in a community setting, that collectively we would not need to work as much or have as much funds allocated to those things, because we just decided that we were going to share them. Yeah. So in that book, Sacred Economics, it talks about how the current financial system that we are in, it basically is built on the premise that in order for you to have more, somebody else has to have less. And that's the system that we're in. That it started, and this book is incredible. It explains right from the beginning how the whole financial system was set up, and that there were people and they each had an allocation of money, and then the bank came in and said, oh, I'm going to lend you this as long as you pay me back this, and it's an additional amount because then it's called interest. And then if you have these goods that you can give me, then I can give you interest so that you can be generating more. But in order for that to happen, if there are 10 people, then all of a sudden 9 people have something and the 10th person has nothing, because all 9 of those people need to have more in order to give back to the bank, because they borrowed a certain amount of money that is only worth this much, but when they pay it back, it needs to be more. So where does that money come from? Well, it comes from the 10th person, where their funds are then reallocated to each one of these people. Well, then when the bank gets paid back and they say, oh, we're going to pay you with interest, where does that money come from? It needs to be generated from somewhere, from something. So we need to start thinking about a new way of circulation, a new way of seeing how it is that we can live in a world of abundance and wealth, where it is not that one person is losing or some people are losing in order for the other people to win. There are a few ideas in this book that are really, really spectacular about how the financial system can change, and then it can really stimulate growth and creation and stuff within people. And one of the ideas is actually an expiration date on money, that you would have money for a certain period of time, and that if you have it at the end of this time and you haven't recirculated it, that it would be worth less money, not more, but less money, just because you've been holding on to it. So if you get to the end of your expiration date for, let's say you have $100,000 that you haven't created something new, or you haven't generated a new idea, or you haven't put it back into the system in some way. And this is not about consumption and just buying more and more and more material things. It's about the circulation of wealth. That if you take that $100,000 and you say, okay, but if I don't circulate it, it's going to be worth $80,000. But if this person over here who doesn't have $100,000 has a really incredible idea to do this thing, if I lend them that $100,000 and then they use it to create, and then they don't owe me more than the $100,000, but they owe me the $100,000 that it's going to generate, that my $100,000 is still worth $100,000, not $80,000, just because I've put it back out there and circulated it around people who are able to make new ideas come to be. And it's little things like that, tweaking the understanding of a system that we have been confined to for many, many, many decades, if not centuries. And we really need to start thinking outside the box, because our current financial system is truly hanging on by a thread. And the more ideas that we come up with sooner than later, the less likely the fall of our current system is going to have catastrophic impacts on many of us. The less likely. For me, unfortunately, I feel as though I have lost confidence in the system that we're in right now. So I sort of just wait for it to all fall apart, like how the GameStop thing, when people were doing shorts against other companies, and then all of a sudden GameStop broke the stock market, and it showed the fragility of our entire system and how it is barely, barely, barely hanging on. When you start thinking about the trillions and trillions of dollars that the United States is in debt, that it's not backed by any sort of gold standard, or that it is not backed really by anything. All they do is just keep creating money. And do you know what it is? They go doop, doop, doop on a computer, and then they just go, oh, let's print more money. Let's print it more. But what does that mean? It doesn't really do anything except make everything else cost more because it's worth less. So the system we're in right now is not functioning for the people. The cost of things is rising higher and higher and higher. The foundation that we are building these systems on is becoming less and less stable. It is really cracking under the pressure of all the things that we keep trying to build on top of it. And eventually the whole thing is going to fall down. Eventually, unless we either repair the foundation or build a whole new foundation that these structures are being built on, it's only a matter of time. It really is only a matter of time. And so for me, I say, you know, why bother if it's going to fall apart? Why put money in an RRSP? Why bother trying to save things? I might as well just enjoy my life right now and spend the money that I have and circulate and understand that money is energy, and that every time I am sharing and circulating the money that I have, the wealth that I have, that it is creating an energetic ripple that is going out into the world, that it is impossible for me not to have a reciprocation back. It is literally the laws of the universe that what you put out comes back, that we are magnetic, that we are living in a world of polarities, and that the magnetism and the electricity that comes around is inevitably attracting back to me. So if I'm putting things out there and I have this amazing, amazing way of doing that, I bless every single dollar. I say every time I spend my money on my credit card, I say, I am grateful for this opportunity to circulate our wealth. And then I tap my card and I just say, okay, I'm grateful, because what I know, and we all know because we went through my beliefs the other day, that the more we spend, the more we receive. And that is the belief that I'm carrying, that energetically speaking, this money that I have in front of me that is going out is like a blessing that I am able to circulate out into the world, and that I know will come back to me eventually. Okay, what else? What else do I want to say about that new financial system? I'm so curious to know if any of you have read any books about this particular subject. I really enjoy reading books that come up with solutions, not books that are just talking about the problem, because we all know the problem. We all know that it's a failing system. We all know that it benefits the few and not the many. We all know that there are serious loopholes in the fact that some people can be starving and other people can be literally like trillionaires. I don't know if we have those yet, but I'm sure that they're coming. We all know that there are problems, but there are very few books that I've read that actually present viable solutions or present inspired ideas about how we're going to solve these problems. And I'm very curious. So if you know any of them, please, 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 that's your call to action. Please share them in the comments. I just want to know what books that I can add to my library that would be talking about this. I have a whole section. I have The Soul of Money. I have The Energy of Money. I have The Rules of Wealth. I have 5 money conversations to have with your children. Oh, I have my favorite ones, right? The Science of Getting Rich and Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. Those two books that I read first really shifted my mindset around wealth and abundance. And of course, my favorite book of all time, which is You Are a Badass at Making Money, Jen Sincero. I love her so much. Those three books, when I read them all back to back, and they really, really changed my mindset from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. They worked through me identifying what my core beliefs were surrounding money that I adopted from my parents, from the world around me, from my growing up, that really challenged me to come up with new beliefs that are the foundational basis to what I believe about wealth and abundance today. And yeah, I'm super grateful for those people who wrote those amazing books. If you know of any more, you just let me know. Okay, new financial system. Do you have any ideas of how we can create a new system that is going to benefit the many? Yeah, I want to know. Okay, let's do a channel. Let's do a channel. Okay. I was just going to do my channel. What do you need?
Well, I have nothing if you're recording.
Okay, I'll be there in a minute. Okay. I call on divine to be known to me. I call on divine to be known to me. I am divine. We are one. And what we would say is that the foundational basis of all systems that are present in your current society are showing signs of wear, are showing signs of being pushed to limits, being pushed beyond boundaries that they were created within. And what we would say is that it is not a bad thing to push your limits, to expand the edges of your limitations and boundaries. But what we would say is that the current systems hold within them structures that are only, excuse me, capable of withstanding so much pressure before they crumble under the weight of unreasonable and unfair expectations. That in your lifetime you will witness all things being made new. That you will witness a new way of being, a new way of sharing, a new way of reciprocating gratitude and exchanging energy, as well as circulating wealth that has never been seen on earth before. That there have been many preparations being made over the past 2 generations in preparation for what is to come. That new insights and new ideas have been planted like seeds within the minds and hearts of many. That new visionaries will rise up and be heard. For there is a better way. There is a different way. There are many other ways. in which you can work in connection with one another. And all beings, not only human, but all beings are able to thrive. The financial system is just one of the many aspects of your life and your society which will experience radical changes in the coming years, so that in one lifetime you will witness the greatest changes on earth that have ever been seen. And what we would say is that it is a time to rejoice. It is not a time to fear loss or be sad, for what has passed is already behind you. What we would say is that although in a very short burst of time it may appear as though all structures are crumbling, it is simply for the enablement of all things new. And what we would say is that you can trust that with a new perspective, all things will be provided, and that you will witness the abundance that surrounds you in ways that you have never seen before. That your definition of riches and wealth and abundance will shift so drastically, you will wonder how you ever believed that you lived without before. You will celebrate in the streets. You will share all that you have, and you will live in abundant joy. Trust it is so. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Ciao for now.